Hi, and thank you for joining me for today's process video. And today I wanted to bring some sunshine into my life. We've been experiencing some really nice weather here this week in the UK, and I wanted to show that in my scrapbooking. So I pulled out Vicki Boutin's Where To Next, and I'm documenting 2 photos from our trip to Herm last summer. It was our summer holiday with my parents, and it's just a picture of everybody apart from me because I was taking the photo getting ready to leave Herm. And last year we actually added on a few days in Jersey as well, so it was really nice that we weren't just leaving to go back home this time. So as I say, I've pulled out Where To Next, and I'm looking for summary type papers, and I am going to mix these with You Are My Sunshine from Pretty Little Studio, and these colours go absolutely perfect together. So if you've got You Are My Sunshine, do have a look at Where To Next if you've got it, because they go really well. I've decided not to get the papers at the moment from You Are My Sunshine. I'm just getting the embellishments and stickers, so I'm looking at my other collections to see what I can mix them with. So this layout idea I did see somewhere, probably on Instagram. I'm so sorry I didn't take a note and can't remember. I haven't screenshotted it or anything, so I can't remember who created this layout. But I just remember seeing the 2 tag pieces pointing into the photos, and I thought that was such a good idea that that's what I wanted to create on mine as well. So I'm just creating some strips to go behind those 2 tags, so it looks like everything's pointing towards the photos, and that's a great way of making them the focal point of your layout. So I found this lovely green with florals on, and I thought that would be really nice because we're in the gardens of the hotel, just walking out to get the boat back to Guernsey, and so this sort of reminds me of that. And I think sometimes it's really important when you're creating a layout that you get the mood and feel of what's going on in the photos as well as just the actual photos there. So I pulled everything to the side because I want to add some mixed media to the background. I'm just going very simple today, and I've got bundled sage, and I've just watered it down, and I'm adding some splatters, and then I'm pulling out a yellow. I made a mistake. I pulled out tea dye, which was above it on my inkstand there on my desk, so quickly switched it out for fossilised amber, and then I'm adding a nice load of splatters of that all around the centre point. I'm hoping that I've got them wide enough that they do show when I add the photos there. So I've just pulled my crocodile to add the hole to the centre of my tag. I have got a silver single hole punch, and it's gone missing. I don't know where it is. It's probably fallen down the back of my desk or something, so I need to go and look for that. But the crocodile did the job perfectly. And then I'm just using some American seam binding that we sell at Hey Little Magpie to add 2 little bows to those tags, just to show that they are tags really. And that sage green, it works really nicely with the colours that I've got for this layout. So just neatening that up and trimming it down, and then I'll do the same to the other tag. And I've tried really hard not to rough up the edges of these papers, so I've just curled them up on the page, and I do like the dimension that's provided. Now they'll probably flatten down in the page protectors once they're in my album, but for now it looks really nice, and all the shadows that it casts are lovely. So there are the 2 tags sorted. I'm waiting very impatiently for that mixed media to dry. And now I'm just lining up the background onto my glass mat so I can work out where to put the left hand strip, and then I'm going to match that on the right hand side. It's got a 12-inch grid on it, so it's really handy to do things like this. So just getting those 2 down. I will bring in my T-square ruler in due course just to check that everything is equal, because it's quite important on this layout that things are the same on both sides. I felt it was a little bit too low. I didn't want my photos too far down the page because I want to be able to have my title and journaling underneath them, so I'm just bringing everything up a little bit, and this is where you can see I brought in my T-square just to check that they are on a level. I had to tear that green piece in half. You would have seen at the beginning when I trimmed off the piece of paper that I wanted to use, I boldly cut it in half, not realising that it wouldn't be long enough. So I've just torn it in half so that I can put a bit at the top and a bit at the bottom. You'd never know that it wasn't running all the way down the sides of the page. So there we go, that's how it's going to sit. I'm just going to bring in the other pieces now, and you can see how I'm just folding them up and rolling up the sides just to create some interest and get those shadows going. It just makes the page look so much more fun than it being absolutely flat on it. To me anyway, that's what I like the look of. So again, using that T-square just to check that I line these up correctly. And then those nice thin pieces, I haven't decided the length, so I'm just going to do that with this one, and then I'll hold them together to trim the other one to the same length. You'll see most of my scrapbooking is done by eye. I'm not really a great measurer, mainly because it goes wrong when I try and measure. I think, oh, I'll do this at 2 inches, and then it just doesn't look right, so doing it by eye is much better. So just, it's quite a thin strip that, so I just had to curl the tape back. I've managed to go over the edge. I'm still not great with my ATG. I think it's a brilliant invention, but I don't seem to be able to get it wholly on the paper most of the time. So I am just curling up the edges of this one with my fingernails. It's a very thin strip, so the best way to do it was to add it and then curl up the edges afterwards. So now I'm going to add these tags, and you can see I'm just adding glue in the middle because I want to be able to curl up those edges and get that shadowing. And I shall do the same with the other side. And then I can bring the photos in. So I am going to map the photos onto that floral paper that I used for those very thin strips down either side of the page, and I've got just enough room to fit it under those tags. I do have to tuck it under ever so slightly, which is another great reason for leaving the adhesive just in the middle of the tags. So first of all, putting them onto some scrap white cardstock, and I do cut them out individually, and then I'll map them onto a single piece of that floral paper. Just want very thin borders because, like I say, I don't have a huge amount of space in between those two tags, so I'm being very careful how I do this. And I'll move this because I noticed that I could see the perforated edge from the paper pad on that side, so I'll just move them over to the left. So there we go, tiny little gap in between the two photos and a very thin border around the edges. Just curling up those edges and getting it stuck down. And I am going to add some foam behind this, and I'm using some fun foam because it's just 1 mil deep. My foam pads are 2 mil deep, and I didn't want it to be too high because it's having to tuck underneath those tags. So this works really nicely. So there we go. And now I can come in with all my gorgeous You Are My Sunshine pieces. So I'm starting off with this pack of titles. I love these. I can see every single one of them being used on pages soon. But I settled to one that says Sunny Days. So I'm just going to add that there. And then I want to bring in some more florals as well. Just notice that sun, so I'm adding that to the top there. And you can see my great stash of pieces from this collection to the right there. I've added a little word phrase strip to that right hand tag there, but I do switch that out soon. So here are the gorgeous florals. So I found a little bee, so just adding that to the top there. And then I'm searching through, and there are some lovely pink, I think they were hydrangeas actually in the photo, but they had these lovely pink roses in this packet, so I'm going to add a few of those along with the pink berries, just to create that cluster on the left. And then on the right I'm adding some little insects. So I've got a dragonfly, and I do end up with 2 butterflies there as well. So here are those beautiful roses. I don't know whether those roses or ranunculus, but they look really pretty. So just adding those there. And then a couple of daisies up the left hand side, just for a little bit of height there. I thought they looked really pretty, so adding those. So I'm going to commit to some things. I know for sure that sun's going up there. And these butterfly, dragonfly, the title, and those roses. And again, just adding glue in the middle just so that I can curl them up and create some texture on the page. T-square ruler just to check that that title was straight. And you can see as I create my clusters, most things are touching, so that little rose is tucked underneath that title, and then I've tucked the stems of the other florals underneath the rose. And I do bring in another one here. You'll see I just pull off a little bit of this, I think it's a buttercup, and add that to that cluster. It might be in a minute. I'm struggling to see. Anything that I do at the bottom half of the screen is covered by the little recording sign when I'm doing a voiceover, so it's hard to see what's happening. So here's where I switch out that word strip and I change it for this orange one that says summertime fun. It just stands out a little bit more and it's more in keeping. The other one said something about sunny days again, and I've already got that in the title. Here's a little yellow ladybird. I don't think we have yellow ladybirds in the UK, but it works nicely, so I'm adding that. And then another bee, which I do end up adding to the left-hand cluster above those daisies. So now looking through for more bits and pieces. Here's another floral pack. There's the other bee that I was talking about, just goes up there. And then yet another pack. I think this one's called Lemonade Mix, and it's great. It's got all sorts of different bits and pieces in it. And I do find a heart that I'm going to pop behind that word phrase just to finish that little cluster off. And also, I can't remember what else I found from there. There was something else in there that I had in due course. Ah, yes, that tab. It's going to go at the top of the photo and hold my date. So I'm just adding a couple of foam pads to hold that tab up, because obviously the photos are already raised onto foam, so it was important to get that up there as well. Now I'm going to add my journaling, so it's going to go down the right hand side, but first of all I wanted to add something underneath that title, almost as a subtitle, and in the end I pull out my everyday phrase label stamp from Hey Little Magpie and use that to stamp the word tradition. So that's the stamp there. I'm just going to grab my spice marmalade and add that underneath that little cluster of butterflies. So that's almost like a subtitle, and then I'll add my journaling under that. And another butterfly, so of course I had to add that as well. Just filling in that little gap next to the subtitle there. And this is where I was mentioning about pulling in the little buttercup floral just to add to that sprig. So I pulled out some enamel dots from my drawer. I've got so many enamel dots in there that just sit there. So I thought this would be a really nice, pretty glittery layout to add them to. So I'm just adding them in 3 groups of 3. One with that floral cluster, one with the little insects, and then one at the top by the sun. And I've got red, orange and yellow, so they work really nicely with the colours in this layout. So there those down, and then I'm going to come in with a little bit more splattering. I felt that a lot of it had been covered up, so I just wanted to add a little bit more slightly bigger splodges around the edges of the paper, and then a few more splatters as well. And that's the layout complete. I hope I provided some inspiration. So this is your reminder to check what you've got in your stash and what you can add to it. So if you want a new collection, maybe just choose 1 or 2 bits from that new collection and add them to something that's already existing, so that you're not just building and building and building your stash, you are actually using things as well. And sometimes having something new makes you reach for the old stuff too. Thanks so much for joining me. I'll see you soon. Bye.